Your favorite native app framework that will never reach version 1 just hit a major turning point. React Native 0.82 is out, and for the first time ever, it runs entirely on the new architecture. This is the end of the legacy architecture era and the start of a cleaner, leaner React Native. As a result, the old bridge-based system that kept JavaScript and native code talking through serialized messages is now gone. And the implications of this change are massive. The new architecture replaces the old bridge with something called the JavaScript interface. Instead of serializing data into JSON and passing it through an asynchronous bridge, JavaScript can now call native functions directly. This direct line is faster, more predictable, and much closer to how native apps actually operate. The JavaScript interface also enables the introduction of a modern rendering system called Fabric. Fabric lets React coordinate updates between JavaScript and native code more efficiently using React's concurrent rendering model. In practice, this means smoother animations, fewer frame drops, and the ability to handle complex UI updates without freezing. UI lag and dropped frames have always been one of React Native's biggest issues. The old bridge had to serialize every single update, and that included even something as simple as changing a color or moving an element on the screen. This created a lot of overhead and made the UI pipeline fundamentally fragile, since every interaction had to take a detour through the JSON serialization bridge. And, of course, this change has major implications in working with native modules as well. In the legacy architecture, every native module, ranging from Bluetooth to camera access, had to be initialized at app startup. Keep in mind that this was true even if you never actually needed that module. That meant wasted memory, slower cold starts, and unnecessary CPU cycles before your first screen even appeared. The new architecture fixes that with turbo modules. Now, instead of preloading everything, modules are lazy loaded and created only when your JavaScript code actually calls them. The benefits are obvious with React Native apps having a smaller memory footprint, faster startup times, and offering smoother transitions between screens because the runtime isn't juggling unused native modules in the background. Turbo modules also benefit from the same JavaScript interface as Fabric, which means communication between JavaScript and native code happens synchronously and directly. You are not doing JSON serialization and communication under the hood, so when you call a native method now, it feels like any normal function call. Another important addition in this release is Hermes version 1, the next evolution of React Native's JavaScript engine. This is still experimental, but the early results are pretty impressive. In Test on the Expensify app, which is a large production-grade codebase, Hermes v1 reduced bundle load time by up to 9% on iOS and 3% on low-end Android, while improving total time to interactive by as much as 7.6%. React Native also includes a newer version of React, which resolves several long-standing inconsistencies. Owner stacks now work reliably in all setups, and features like use deferred value and start transition finally behave correctly inside suspense boundaries, matching their behavior on the web. Finally, there is one more subtle but powerful change. React Native now supports DOM node APIs. Previously, calling a ref on a native component gave you a limited object with methods like measure or setNativeProps. Now, those refs act more like DOM elements, so they expose parent node, children, getBounding client rect, and even owner document. This is a quiet but important shift. By aligning React Native's component model with the web's DOM API, React Native moves one step closer to unifying the React ecosystem. The same code that traverses or measures elements in a React web app can now run natively with minimal changes. So, if you are planning to create your own native mobile app, this is the best time to do it. Believe me, these days it is much easier than you might think. First of all, you can fully rely on Expo. It abstracts the native build pane, tracks the React Native release line, and gives you a sane dev loop. Once you run the create command, you will get a pretty standard project structure. Inside the app directory, we can create layouts and screens by simply nesting folders. For demo purposes, we'll create a tabs folder to hold our tab screens and a separate modal TSX file for the modal route. Then, in the layout file, we'll define a stack navigator with our two screens for the tabs and the modal. The tab group hides its header since each tab has its own title, and the modal uses the presentation modal option to show it with native style animation on iOS or Android. Then, inside the tabs folder, another layout TSX defines a tabs navigator with two screens pointing to home and settings. Then, in the home screen, we'll add a simple button, which, when clicked, will trigger a router push to the modal. The modal itself is another React component that acts like a regular screen. Of course, it can contain whatever you want, ranging from forms to alerts or quick actions, and it closes by going back on the router. As you can see, we managed to create a simple app in just under a minute, so imagine what you can build once you actually start layering real functionality on top of this. If you liked this video, you should check out one of these ones next. Also, please click the like button, the subscribe button, the comment button, the hype button, the notification button, and any other button YouTube is throwing your way these days.